All right. First off, I'd like to thank really the players for all their hard work this year, the coaches, the entire organization as a whole. Our trainers did an amazing job, video guys. It was a long year. It was a trying year, and they went through a lot, but they never wavered. You know, this is probably one of the most resilient teams I've been around, you know, to go through really a coaching change early in the season. You're 1-4, things are up in the air. And then to really settle in, that group never gave up. They played hurt, they fought, they battled, they found ways. So really proud of those guys. Again, proud of the coaching staff. You know, we had guys that left during the season and really, you know, took other jobs. And a lot of guys had to pick up other people's work. So they did that, and really appreciate that. Then also Steve Wilkes, he did a great job, and just want to thank him for his effort. But overall, this team really fought to the very end. You saw that yesterday, and to win a game on a walk-off field goal by Eddie Pinheiro was a pretty special way to end the season after a tough year. So with that, I just want to thank everybody. Today, I know everybody wants to know about the head coaching search. I'm not going to get too far into that today. I don't really want to comment on it just because we need to let the process play out. There's a lot of rumors out there, a lot of names being thrown around, some right, some wrong. So just not going to get into that right now. But overall, just take your questions.
Can you at least say, Scott, how many candidates you guys expect to talk to?
You know, it's not going to be a large group. You know, it's going to be, but we're not going to get too far into that again. But it's not going to be large.
Have you been assured that you will be part of that search?
Listen, I'm not going to talk about my job. That's one thing. You know, good times, bad times, I'll never talk about. But I will be involved in the process moving forward.
Scott, nobody chooses to have a year like this, but as an evaluator, are there things you can learn about your guys that maybe you can't learn unless they're put in difficult situations?
Absolutely. I think our young guys really, really gained a lot this year to play meaningful football in December and into January. I think that Tampa game was about as close to a playoff game as these guys have been in, and I think this is something they can grow on moving forward. And really to battle through all the obstacles they went through, that builds a resilience on these teams. And the hardest thing is learning how to win, and these guys are doing that right now. They fought through a lot of different things, and yeah, our record's 7-10, but there's a lot of little, accomplishments that along the way that they'll build on moving forward.
What case has Steve made for the head job?
He's done a nice job. You know, out of respect for the process, again, I just don't want to get too far into it, but a team that was 1-4 and where we finished, and the guys kept fighting. A lot of credit to Steve, a lot of credit to the team for that.
What do you like about your quarterback situation going forward? Sam Darnold's a free agent, and you have Matt Corral who's battling injury. What do you see there? Sure,
it's unfortunate about Matt, because we wanted to see him this year. Had a good talk with Sam Darnold this morning. As far as the future of that room, we have to decide who the head coach is first. That'll play a lot into that. But there's some talent there, and we're always looking to get better. But a lot of that's going to be driven by the head coach.
You have a guy who is hurt like Matt Corral. How do you weigh that when you're making, understanding that you have to have a head coach first, but when you're making draft decisions for the future?
Well, we took him for a reason. We took him because we liked him, and he worked all year. He was in the in the meeting rooms, studying with the players. He had the earpiece on at practice. Unfortunately, because of a foot, he couldn't be on the field throwing the ball or doing those type of things. So we only saw him in OTAs and training camp. But it'll be good to get him out there. But we're still excited about his future.
Scott, the last time we talked to you was after Christian got traded. If you look at the way that Chuba and Deontay performed since then, how do you feel about that trade in retrospect now?
Yeah, well, anytime you lose someone like Christian McCaffrey, all 32 teams could use Christian McCaffrey. He's one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, and absolutely great teammate and great person. But the way the running back stepped up says a lot about them. Dante Foreman had a great year. Chuba really came on from where he was at last year to this year. He showed a lot of patience as a runner. He showed more power. And then bringing in Blackshear, that was a great pickup. He's a different, unique piece out of the backfield. So we really like the rotation that we have right now, and a lot of that's driven by the offensive line up front. Getting those guys settled, those guys playing basically all the snaps that they played, up until mid-game yesterday was really impressive, and I feel like that's a group that we can build on. That was an emphasis in the offseason, fixing the offensive line, and I felt like we had one of the better offensive lines in the NFL right now.
Following that up, though, Bradley Bozeman, guy you guys brought in
Yeah.
to start off this season, what's your overall evaluation of how he performed this year?
Bradley's great. He's a great teammate, great leader. He's great in the community. He's one of the bigger centers in the NFL. He's very physical, and what he does, he takes a lot off the quarterback's plate as far as line calls and managing the line up front. We have really smart offensive line, and we're very well coached with Campen. But with Corbett at right guard, Brady at left guard, and Bozeman at center, great communication up front, which is what you need. But Bozeman was a great addition. Really happy about him. We had a good talk this morning about his future. Again, same thing, kind of driven by, but he's a guy that we would like back. I think he wants to be back, and he's part of our future.
Scott,
Is Deontay Foreman also a priority to re-sign?
We had a good talk about that. Yeah, we're trying to. There's certain guys that we'd like back. You don't want to put too much out there, but obviously with the way he ran, he's a nice addition to us.
Did Corral have a setback or a second surgery?
He got a screws taken out, so he had that last week, and so that's a good sign. That means he's healing moving forward. Two things on injuries that I wanted to share with you guys. Unfortunately, Corbett did tear his ACL, so that's very unfortunate. He was in good spirits about it. He's a guy that's been healthy his whole life, so he did tear his ACL, but he's a guy that will be back. It's probably right around the start of the season. We'll have to see how he progresses. And then Brady Christensen did fracture his ankle. So those were two significant injuries, but we'll see how they all recover.
Scott, when you talk about the quarterback situation, it's obviously a position you guys have been just trying to solidify here for a number of years.
Sure.
How close do you feel like you are to that, and where do you stand?
So basically the way we've addressed the quarterback position, yes, there's been a lot of names coming through. We tried to build a defense the first year. And then it's like, do you want to put a young quarterback behind an offensive line that probably wasn't up to par last year, or do you want to fix the offensive line? And now, we went out, we drafted Corral, and you can see the progress in Sam Darnold this year. Just he showed more confidence, more patience in the pocket, so that was a good thing. We don't want to force that, but eventually we do need a guy that we need to draft and develop. We need someone homegrown that's going to be here over a long period of time, whether that's Matt, whether it's Sam that we keep here who's still a young quarterback, or someone else. We're going to keep all of our options open and do what's best for this team.
Scott, you're picking ninth. You've got more picks than you had a year ago at this time. How active do you anticipate being? You're the guy who said in on every deal. Is that going to be the case this offseason?
Well, I think we're in a situation with this team where getting the offensive line settled, we feel like we have some running backs. We have DJ, Terrace is coming on. We need to make a couple tweaks on defense, but we have one of the best young corners in the league. Dante Jackson will be back. This is a year that we kind of focused on building the basics the last 2 years, defense and offensive line. This is the year that we can go out and take some shots on more explosive type athletes and players. It might be a little bit more of a sexy draft than just a nuts and bolts type draft. So we'll see how it goes. You never know what it's going to look like. There's a lot of work to do in the draft room and free agency, but we're in a position now where we can take some of those shots.
More specifically, I think you spent a lot of time this fall looking at these top quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. How likely is it you think you get one of those guys in the top 10?
Again, it's too early to tell. Last year you thought a lot of those guys were going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. A couple of those guys are sitting in the third round. There's so much work to be done. I haven't even sat down with the scouts yet in the draft room to get their full opinions, but that'll be something that we're always looking to add someone to the quarterback.
When you're talking, Scott, about explosive athletes, and what positions does that mean?
Again, I don't want to box myself in, but you can always use a vertical receiver, tight ends, speed on the defensive side, ball hawks. That's what we're looking for.
With free agency, do you envision it being more about your internal free agents than the open market?
Well, that's one thing about the cap right now. Like, people are going to look at our cap number. What's the lower cap number? That's because we have a lot of guys under contract. Usually you're going out and you're signing guys back to your team, and that eats into your salary cap space. This year it's a little bit lower, but with more guys under contract, that's a good thing. And then the next 2 years, we have quite a bit of money next year and the year after to spend. So we're actually in pretty good shape from a cap standpoint. There's always things that we can do to create money, which we'll do, but we'll see how that goes.
You brought up Austin and Brady having those pretty significant injuries.
Yeah.
What did you see from Cade Mays this year, and how do you feel about him potentially playing guard?
Yeah, the one thing, to put a big guy like that in the backfield just shows what type of athlete he is, and which was pretty impressive, because it's so hard for a 315-pound guy to adjust on the run like he does. And then yesterday was actually kind of a blessing in disguise, and I hate any injury, and especially to Corbett, who's like an awesome guy. But to see what Cade did when he came in, the movement he got at the line of scrimmage, the physicality he played with, a guy that hasn't taken a lot of reps with that group, and the way he communicated with them, it's a great sign. And so not only is it our front five that had made it a big jump, it's also the back end guys, and it's guys like Cade Mays. Cam Irving was a great leader for us this year. He was like a great guy in that room. So we're excited about that group. It's unfortunate with the injuries, but Cade is an exciting player moving forward.
Sticking with the offensive line, on Friday, Brian Burns said he saw Icky grow up from week 1 to 18.
Yeah.
Where did you see most of that growth? Can you just describe the year?
Well, week 1, he probably had the hardest out the gate, assignments in the NFL, facing Myles Garrett. And anyone's going to struggle. Any rookie, no matter who they're facing, that's a tough call for them. However, his growth throughout the season, his run game was dynamic, but what he did in pass pro, his technique, how that improved, that shows a lot how much he worked on it and just how good James Campen and Kugler are working with them. And you can see those guys on the side working with him. Brian Burns is working with him. So his growth from week 1 to week 17 was outstanding. We're really excited about him. He's everything we thought he was.
And to stick with the rookie class in general, at least on the outside, we never talked about or mentioned this group hitting a rookie wall as you guys played meaningful football all the way through the year. What do you attribute to that?
I think, it's interesting you say that, because our sports science department, our trainers, our strength staff, it was something they really focused on this year. Last year, I think October, there was like a dip, like a 30% dip in some of their testing numbers. This year it stayed, mid-90s. Even some guys even exceeded 100 of where they were at, a year ago. Yeah. And so I think the way that their training has been good. And just the advancements, the way these guys work, the way they train, the way we practice, the way just all the factors come in that plays into it.
In previous years, you've been vocal about wanting to get the offensive line, that being a priority, and you've kind of solidified that. Heading into this offseason, where do you see some of your priorities right now, position-wise? Again,
you want to give too much away because other teams watch these things, but you always want a ball hawk on the back end. There'll be speed, speed of linebacker. You can always use another pass rusher opposite Burns, tight ends and vertical receivers.
But can Sam be that quarterback can win consistently for you? Have you seen enough of that, or do you feel like that's still kind of an unknown?
A lot of it will depend on the offense that we're running and those type of things. I am very pleased with the growth that Sam made. Yesterday was a tough day for him, but he found a way to win in the end with his feet. He made a big throw late in the game. Those are the type, even though the numbers weren't there, that's the type of growth you want to see when you don't have your A game and you can find a way to win it at the end. But again, just like last year, he had 3 or 4 games that were pretty solid in there. Didn't turn the ball over and was making the throws he needed to make.
Scott, when you're, I know you don't want to talk specifically who's interviewing when. When you're looking for a head coach now, what is most important to you that that head coach embodies?
Well, again, I just don't want to share too much on the process. I think anytime you have a head coach, you're looking for a leader, an organized person, those type of things. Everybody's looking for the same characteristics, but then there's a bunch of variations in there, but without going too far into detail about that.
What are you telling candidates about what makes this job attractive?
It's funny because we've had agents that have reached out to us, and obviously we can't start the process yet. We have to be very careful of those rules. But I think this is a very, very attractive job on the outside where people are looking at it, hey, look, this is a young team. This division is up for grabs here in the next few years. There's no dominant quarterback. They look at our defense, they look at the offensive line, some of the pieces that we have, and the way we're growing right now. And with a few tweaks here and there, this is a division that we can take over. That opportunity is there. It's up to us to do it. So I think they see that. They like the ownership situation. You know, they know Mr. Tepper will be there to support them, and so it's a very attractive job.
Do they view the quarterback situation as a negative or something that maybe someone comes in with a blank slate?
I think, I don't know that yet without going into the process. I think we're going to learn a lot about what other people think of our team from the outside during this process, which is just as important as interviewing people. The good thing is, if it is that, we can spend some resources to go get that, you know, because everything else is kind of built around it. And so we put ourselves in a position to be successful.
Scott, we're a ways away from the draft, obviously, but you guys have done a lot of homework on the incoming quarterback class. What is your kind of early impressions of the guys that are going to be available? Yeah, again, there's really talented guys out there, like it is every year, but until you really dig into it and sit down with them, I don't know yet, because I haven't sat down face to face and looked these guys in the eyes and figured out how do they think. You know, we can see all these guys on tape, but until you really get a feel for the guys in person, the type of presence they have, the leadership, the command, the way they think, the way they process, we don't know yet. But there are exciting guys on tape, and from background that our college scouts have done as far as who the people are, but now we have to get to know them. Scott, when you talk about this process and getting the nuts and bolts guys last year, and now you're getting the sexy guys, right? Was that always the plan?
I guess I did use that term.
Right? But you know what I'm saying, right? You get the important pieces that you can build off of, and then you get the pieces that maybe can take you here. Was that always the plan, and does it feel like you're on the right track and things are kind of going?
Yeah, I think people have different philosophies how to build a team. And ours was defense first, offensive line, and then go from there. And so that's we've put ourselves in a position to do that. And I like where we're at right now.
Scott, how important is it between the GM and the head coach to have constant communication?
Oh, it's vital. Between really the GM, the head coach, and ownership. That's a huge thing, because if you're not aligned, everything else is, you know, off course. And so that's absolutely vital in any healthy relationship.
Scott, I understand what you said about the coaching situation, but I just got to ask you straight up: do you feel like Steve has done enough to warrant being the full-time head coach here?
Yeah. Again, I just don't want to go too far into it in the process. When Mr. Tepper gave him the opportunity, when we sat down at the table in his office, and you know he looked at Steve, asked him these questions, and gave him the opportunity, it's with the thought, you know, that he likes this guy. He thinks he can lead this team. Who knows? Like there's so much more to do moving forward, so I just don't want to go too far into that, but we'll see.
Scott, with your experience in the league, and correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first head coaching hire that you're going to be involved in as a GM?
Yeah.
So there's stability in Seattle. So what are you looking for in what the external candidates? Because I think we all know you know what you have in Steve, but for external candidates, what kind of things are you looking for that will be red flags, or will be, you know, we'll check the boxes?
Yeah, I mean, there's always the basics that you're looking for in leadership, organization, teacher, all those things. I just don't want to get too far into the process, because I don't think it's fair to maybe the other candidates or anyone else involved, but we want to keep that kind of tight. But there are certain benchmarks or certain attributes that you need in a head coach, and that's what we're going to look for.
How much did Carroll?
Pardon?
Do you have some nerves entering your first hire?
I'm excited. I think, because I know, you know, we know what we're looking for. You know, I'll sit down with Dave and Nicole, and you know, we're going to know exactly who it is, and we'll know when we get to that person. But there are some really good candidates this year. We just have to make sure we keep an open mind going into this, that we're not like just locked in on one guy, two guys, three guys, because that happens to be a tendency. And so we have to keep always reminding ourselves, keep an open mind, give everybody a chance to come in, the opportunity to learn. We'll know when the right person's in front of us.
Is Nicole going to be part of the process? Will Nicole be part of the process?
Yes.
Other guys from playoff teams, or even, you know, where this could drag out for, you know, 3 or 4 weeks that you got your eye on?
Yeah, I don't want to put a timetable on it. It's going to start quickly, but then, you know, until we find the right person, whether it's, you know, a week or a month, we don't know. It's just, we'll let the process play out and make a decision when it's right.
As you're part of this process, I guess, for the first time. How much did working with Pete Carroll kind of, mold your view of how a head coach should operate, or maybe what a candidate maybe should look like?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be around a few head coaches, Pete being one of them, who's very special. Mike Holmgren being another one, Jim Fossil back in New York in the days. They're all very different, but they're all have, some are defense, some are offense. Pete was defense, Holmgren was offense, Fossil was offense. However, they all have unique traits and unique leadership to them, and so it's just finding the right fit for you or for the Carolina Panthers organization.
We'll do a couple more. Everybody good? All right, thank you, Scott.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.